because I work for players. My loyalty is with the players. It's always going to be with the players. Always has been, always will be. And if you want access to that, you got to invest in that.
My ducks, my swans, welcome to the pond.
When I first started working in basketball, one of the things that really surprised me was how extensive the NBA went when it came to investigating potential prospects. They call everybody. If you are associated with a prospect, and especially within a setting where you coach them or you are coaching adjacent to them, if they know that, they're going to call you. And there are going to be people from teams like, yo, how'd you even get my number? Like, who was you talking to? And it makes you really understand, like, how much people run their mouth in this business for real. Because anybody will call you. I've had so many teams. I've had the Pacers call me, the Magic called me, the Heat called me. I think the Thunder called me, the Bulls. Like, people call me about random, not want to say random players, but players that I did know, players that I had coached or that I had trained and that I had been around or that I was associated with, and they knew that like I was going to give real information because the people that suggested that they talk to me were telling them that, right? This is somebody that if you call Dorian, well, at the time, you call Alton Clark, he's going to keep real with you about such and such, like he ain't no BSer. And so because of that, and I knew that's my reputation because it's how I am in every aspect of life, I wanted to make sure that when they called, I wasn't going to say anything that was really going to be to the player's detriment, but I also wanted to keep it as real and authentic as I possibly could. Like, I'm not about to turn my back on nobody, or I'm not about to tell something that shouldn't be told. But if it's something that I think could protect this person's job or even put that player in a position where this might not be the best fit for them, I'm absolutely going to share that information because that's the whole point of this, right? This ain't an opportunity for me to get off. This is an opportunity to help this player that I coached, that I trained, who allowed me to help cultivate and mold his talent. And now he's in a position where NBA teams are calling me about him. This is his time. This ain't my time. So let me give the information that is not only going to help him, but it's going to help the organization, whether they decide to take him or not. The first question every single NBA scout, personnel, GM, assistant GM, whoever calls, asks is, how is he? How is he? And what they're saying there, like, that is their way of using their clout in the NBA, and whoever they call allow them to run their mouth, right? Because when you work inside of basketball and you get a random call and it says, hey, man, this is blah, 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 and I'm a scout with the Los Angeles Clippers, or I'm with the Miami Heat. When someone calls that and calls you with that, you like, whoa, who is this? And I wanted to ask you about blah, blah, blah. When they put the prospect's name or the player's name in there who like it's real. And so you get taken aback because that's not a phone call that you expect to get. It's not a phone call that anyone trains you to get. So when they ask, how is he? This is the time that people usually run their mouth. They just say whatever, and they just let you go because they know this is when they're going to get the most information out of you. So when they used to say, how is he, man? I used to really talk about the personality, and I would talk about the aggression because I felt like everybody who they asked about was kind of aggressive. And so I'll really talk about like how aggressive he was, it's something I might have spotted like at a very young age or when I first met him, to where it is now and how he was able to like manifest and cultivate that productively, right? Like, and there was times when he was growing up or times when I was coaching him where that aggression might have got the best of him and he got some texts or, we might have been in practice, he might have cracked somebody or something. But as he got older and as he understood, like, he can't do that. That might be acceptable here at AAU, or that might be acceptable if we playing at the Gardens. I start saying stuff like that, something they don't know, but if they go look it up, like, oh, Municipal Gardens, Indianapolis, Indiana. Okay, he does know a little bit more. Now, that would be the times I would get off. Just let me sprinkle a little Naptonian basketballisms in here so they can see that I'm really in this. And then I would say, like, but his aggression, he got a hold of it about the time he got to high school. And that's why, like, you don't never see him getting no texts like that. That's why you'll never see him getting no fights like that. That's why when you call the high school or you gonna call his college coaches, when you talk to him, he wasn't a crazy player like that. He was somebody that fit within the team because he got all that stuff out when he was younger, and we taught him how to use that to his benefit as opposed to his detriment. And when I say that, now, like, I know their eyes getting big. They're like, okay, cool, that makes sense because they're trying to identify and tag you to players that they already know, right? So are you more like a Draymond Green, right, who is somebody that uses their aggression in a productive way, or a Kevin Garnett? Or are you somebody like, Ron Artest or Rasheed Wallace, who are outstanding players, two of my favorite players ever, but at times their aggression would get the best of them, and, they only got 2 championships between them. Draymond is clearly a core member of what Golden State has going on, and although he's crossed the line plenty of times, that aggression is the fuel for what they do. So they're trying to tag you and compare you to current NBA players. So I always want to give like a full spectrum of anything that I said about the player they were asking about. The next question that almost immediately followed every single NBA person that asks, does he smoke? Does he drink? Does he party? Does he have a bunch of women? Does he, they want to know the addiction. They want to know the vice. Now, in this part, when I got asked this, I kept it real because I'm not about to tell them something and you do it. Now, if I ain't never seen it, I don't know, whoop-de-whoop, then I'm going to say that, hey, man, I ain't never seen him do X, Y, and Z. But if it's like, yeah, he was in college, he drank, like he social drank. He wasn't somebody that was drunk all the time. I never seen him throw up. He wasn't missing nothing like that. But, yeah, he went to college and blah, blah, blah. You know how they get down, whoop-de-woo. I never saw any of the players they asked about smoke, so that was never an issue. And when it came to people's personal lives, when it came to how they dealt with women or whatnot, every athlete at that age they're in college. You 19, 20, 21 in college. Like, everybody relationship crazy. So, I'm going to protect that because that's sanctity to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't get access to that until you decide to make a financial commitment to him. And I'm not saying that I'm hiding anything, but, I was fortunate that everybody that I've gotten calls about, those dudes wasn't crazy when it came to the women. Now, you see situations like Zion, and he's making himself an example, so we got to talk about it. You see what Zion's done. If somebody would have asked me about Zion, I would have probably said, he is someone who comes from a place, and this is just my assumption, I don't know, someone that comes from a place where there wasn't a lot of women that he might not have been into, and he went to Duke, a college where women he wasn't into, and when he gets to the NBA, those women are going to be readily available for him. So having a veteran around that's really good at navigating that stuff would be ideal for him. I'm not saying that he's crazy. I ain't saying he's going to go out the deep end or any of that, but, we don't want him to turn into Greg Minor, who was on the front cover of Sports Illustrated in the 90s. Actually, I'm sorry. One of his 7 kids was on the front cover of Sports Illustrated in the 90s. Article written by Grant Wall. Pretty disgusting article now that I look back at it. That was ridiculous that they did that. But, once again, you got 6 kids by 5 different baby mamas. I mean, Sports Illustrated going to write about you. So I would tell them, it ain't going to be like something like that, because that's the last thing they want. These teams don't want that bad PR. But Zion could benefit from a veteran who has been down that road. So in this part, if you are ever asked these questions, be honest, man. Be honest. Now, don't be crazy honest, because once again, they haven't made no commitment yet, so you don't need to be spreading bad information. But be honest about something so you can keep your credibility as a basketball business person, and so they can also see if this is going to be the right fit for him. Because there might be a team that might have called me about Zion in that situation, and they might not have had a veteran in their locker room that's good at handling that. So maybe that might not have influenced him to take him. Now, that might have cost him some money, but at the same time, that fit's important. Like, you look at Ja Morant right now. What the Memphis Grizzlies did this offseason, they had a Marcus Smart, they had a Derrick Rose. They had a culture problem. That culture problem doesn't exist anymore. There is nothing that Ja Morant can tell Derrick Rose or Marcus Smart, especially in this juncture, about being a point guard in the NBA. Like, it's a by committee thing. And so since Derrick Rose has seen everything that the NBA has to offer, he's going to be able to provide that guidance to Ja. But before, he wasn't there. So we got to make sure that you are helping, I don't want to say funnel, but definitely informing teams about things to see if that player is going to be a right fit, as opposed to thinking about the money all the time. Because, Ja cost himself $50, $60, $70 million because Memphis didn't have the right infrastructure in place to handle him. This next question, when people would ask it, when scouts would ask, I really, I would just be honest. I'm honest about all of them, but it just didn't. Everybody looks at the game differently, so I don't know why they would ask, does he love the game? I feel like they were asking that to see where his work ethic is, to see where the game's going to rank in his personal life, to see if he's dedicated to the game like Kobe, like MJ, like whomever we want to fill in at this time. But I think the way the NBA is now, the way basketball is now, everybody's love is different. Like basketball is a love language for me. And when I say that, some people have no idea what I'm talking about, and there are some people who can completely relate. And everybody that works in basketball does not love basketball. I would say majority of people that work in basketball do not love basketball. So when you ask if someone love the game, to me, if you love the game and you've been blessed with the ability to get to the NBA, I don't understand how at age 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, anything else in your life really matters. Outside of God and your family, who you're born to, what else really matters? So why aren't you in the gym 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day? Like, why aren't you training your brain and putting it in a position where you can focus at an extremely high level? Why aren't you watching film all the time? Like, why isn't basketball integrated in everything that you do? But that's me. I look at it totally different, right? There's somebody like Nikola Jokic. This is literally just a job to him. I'm good at it. It's a job. It's a well-paying job. I come over here, I get my money, I take it back home. When I'm done playing, I'm not going to be seen anywhere. That's how he wants to use basketball. So everybody's different with how they love the game. So who are we to say someone loves the game more or less, and that means that they're going to be committed to your organization more or less? So like I said, I'll view this question more about his work ethic. That's what they're asking, and that's how I would answer it, right? And every player that I coached, and a lot of coaches too, but every player that I coached, they had a great work ethic, because I'm not going to deal with you. It's just not going to happen, especially if you're an elite player. Like, if you don't have a good work ethic, you're going to be trash. At this point, this is when the interview or the phone call is going to start breaking off into specific segments of something they might have heard, or they might say, okay, man, I appreciate you, whoop-de-whoop. They do the BS small talk, say they're going to help you, and they're not. And the conversation ends. At this point, I would always get asked, well, I won't say always, but most of the time I got asked about someone or something they heard specifically about that player. And a lot of times it was stuff I hadn't heard of. So I'd be like, man, I don't know nothing about that. I ain't seen nothing like that. Or if it was something or someone I have heard of, I would evaluate who that person was within that player's hierarchy of importance of love in his life. And I would give the answer that I needed to give to protect the player and to protect that person. Now, if it's somebody crazy or it's something that I know is completely false and that player needs to be disassociated with, I'm telling it right there. Nah, that ain't happened. BS, blah, blah, this was this. Call this person. They'll tell you that. If you ever talk to whoever the player is, let him tell you. He'll say this, whatever. But if it's something that's like personal, like, once again, you haven't made that investment. So, you aren't privy to that, right? When you start bringing dudes in on workouts, you really start talking heavy to the agent, that's when you might get privy to some of that information. Like, the way this business works is social currency that's being converted into financial currency. And so I'm not giving you all my social currency when you haven't given us the financial currency. It just makes no sense. So I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to give you what you needed. I've given you all the answers that you needed. I've helped the player. I've helped you. All this stuff, you're going to take back to your boss, to your manager, because I gave you insight. I gave you detailed insight. I gave you specific names. I gave you specific places. It's going to look like that you did a lot better job on this scouting call than you actually did, right? I gave you information, but at the end of the day, bro, I can only tell you so much because I work for players. My loyalty is with the players. It's always going to be with the players. Always has been, always will be. And if you want access to that, you got to invest in that. Now, this is how I handle those calls. I can tell you this right now. Everybody does not handle these calls like this. Some dudes handle these calls to be their interview to get an NBA. Some dudes handle these calls to just snitch and just vent. Some dudes handle these calls because they need somebody to talk to that day. Everybody handles these calls different, man. So if you're in that situation, the only thing that you can really do if you're a player is just always treat people right, treat people with respect. Always be on the up and up. Always know that you always being filmed, you always being watched, you always being evaluated. Because they just ain't going to call your college coaches. They're going to call high school coaches, trainers. They might call a janitor. They might call somebody at your church. They might call somebody at a part-time job you work. They are going to call folks. And all it takes is for one or two people to say something similar that they've already been thinking, opportunity gone. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. I'm out the pond. Y'all stay true.